everyone, welcome back to Web3 Deep Dive Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wolfson. I'm so excited for today's interview. Today I'll be speaking with Sandy Peng. She is the co-founder of Scroll, which is an L2 focused on scaling the Ethereum blockchain network. So in today's interview, we'll be speaking all about Layer-2s, scaling solutions, and much more. Be sure to stay tuned for the entire episode because this is super interesting. Okay, before getting started with today's interview, I'd also like to take the time to thank Edge and Node and House of Web3 for letting me film today's episode at this beautiful podcasting space in San Francisco. Without further ado, let's get started with today's episode. Hi, Sandy. How's it going?
Hi, Rachel. It's great to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. So, Sandy, where are you calling in from? I know that we're on like opposite parts of the world.
Yeah, I'm calling from Hong Kong, but we have a pretty good overlap during the day.
Cool, right. And I'm in San Francisco, so big time difference there. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. Thank you so much.
I love to be here. San Francisco is one of my favorite cities.
It's mine also, so you have to come visit and we can have lunch here.
Amazing.
Cool. Sandy, so before we get started with today's interview, I kind of want you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. You are the co-founder of Scroll. So if you can kind of go into some detail there, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up between Hong Kong and the UK, and I've kind of built my career here in Hong Kong. I started in crypto around 2013 and 14 when I started reading about the Bitcoin white paper, and that's when I was working for the securities and financial regulator here called the SFC. After a few years, I decided to go into the industry full time and be a crypto focused investor. And that period was super interesting. It gave me a really good overview of the industry dynamics, met a lot of people, and kind of doubled down on my belief in the industry. Before starting Scroll, I kind of got deeper and deeper into protocol level research. And as I continued my journey, I met my co-founders on Ethereum research forums and met Ye and Haichen and some of the core contributors, and just kind of got started with Scroll. Everything was just very serendipitous and very fun, and one thing led to another. And so that's our journey. That's my personal journey so far. And I've been kind of working on Scroll for the last 3 years, and that's never been a dull day.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to talk more about Scroll in a little bit, but I think your background is so interesting because you came from like Hong Kong's version of the SEC, right? What's it called? The FSC? Is that what you said?
SFC.
Right. And you were actually working there as a regulator?
Yeah, that's right. So I was working on the research team, and part of my job is to cover emerging things in fintech sector. So back then, the biggest kind of issue that we had to cover was Alibaba launched one of the first internet money, kind of mobile first money market fund. And that gathered, $1 billion overnight. And so the power of internet was starting to, and how it could help accelerate financial products and adoption kind of started gathering attention back then. So there was so it was my role to kind of gather information on what's happening in fintech, and crypto and Bitcoin being an emerging part of it became something that I got really, really stuck into researching.
That's amazing. Wonderful. And then you started Scroll. What year did you start Scroll in? Was it 3 years ago?
About 3 years ago, yeah. And we launched the first research paper that we published that led to a lot of the early traction of Scroll was published about 3 years ago. And our mainnet was launched almost exactly a year ago.
Wow. Okay. Congratulations. That's great. Let's talk about Scroll for our listeners that don't know what Scroll is. It's a Layer-2. Can you explain?
Yeah, so regardless of the layer and everything, it's a blockchain fundamentally. It's a blockchain that is EVM compatible, and it settles on Ethereum layer 1, which means a transaction makes its way to interfacing with the Scroll blockchain, and then eventually it gets settled on Ethereum L1. Why does that matter to the end users? it's good for it means Scroll gets to leverage Ethereum's decentralization and its global consensus, all of these things. As a user, we believe it's better to leverage a larger and more established platform for, while Scroll focuses on scalability, so providing the user with a very cost-effective and also secure on-chain cryptographic solution. So all this sounds super convoluted, but fundamentally, this is all just under the hood, and in combination with Ethereum, Scroll trying to bring to the end user the best kind of security, decentralization, and scaling as the triangle of kind of scalability trade-offs.
Right. Yeah, no, I love the way you put that. You explained what an L2 was, clearly, for me at least. And Scroll is needed for the scalability, security, and all of that on Ethereum, right? So basically, let's go in depth on that. Talk about it a little bit more with transactions happening on Ethereum. Why are L2s actually needed today?
So that is a great question. It's hard. So when we first started Scroll, the problem in the Ethereum universe was very clear. The cost of transaction was prohibitively high, and that's barring a lot of normal people from participating in this vibrant and growing on-chain universe. Transactions were costing $1 or $2, and back then it was before 4844, and so scaling was one of the biggest problems in the space. When you ask the same question now, the answer is incredibly different, because with blobs, 4844, and the L2 scalability solutions becoming more mature, the collective pricing of each block space is coming down to cents and subcents across the L2 stack. And as a result, for someone sitting in San Francisco who frequently spends like a few dollars on coffee, the cost is negligible when it gets to the sub-cent category. And it's fast trending towards zero as an entire industry. I think there is, when you look at internet history, there are times when infrastructure development outpaced application development. But every time Wi-Fi and 5G or 4G improves by an order of magnitude, a new phenomenon of application emerges. So the internet went from being able to support a MySpace or a Reddit to something like a Facebook, to now P2P video networks, and a lot of kind of pictures and video upstreaming. All of these things, the end users are seeing different forms of application, but what is supporting behind it is each generation of infrastructure improvement. So we're in this phase of transition when the infrastructure is getting more and more ready, and the application is, we're all waiting for the next major application to emerge.
Right. Perfect. Now, I know it's early into the podcast, but let's talk about a use case, because you kind of just explained why L2s are necessary. And I would love to put that together with a real world use case that Scroll is doing. So I know, Ether.Fi, for instance, maybe we can talk a little bit about that use case to put this all into perspective for everyone.
Yeah, sure. So to backtrack a little bit, so what filled up the Ethereum block space 3 years ago was a flurry of on-chain DeFi innovation, and those things that gave user on-chain automatic lending, on-chain swaps, and on-chain stable coins, different variations of stable coins for payments, different forms and different levels of providing on-chain leverage. All of these things were incredibly interesting, and people kind of flooded into trying out these innovative products. Like now, I think with the block space being more abundant and more affordable, the design space that has opened is twofold. So in one direction, it has opened the possibility to expand the core use cases of crypto to more people. So crypto is undeniably expanding and finding product market fit in the emerging markets. We're seeing around the world where the dependency on blockchain is so much higher in places where financial infrastructure is lacking. So in development economics, there's a common word called leapfrogging. So in a place where mobile network is not mature, or the financial system is not super mature, or when the internet connectivity is not super mature, developed, that opens up the path for the next generation of technology to completely leapfrog, to leapfrog what happened in the past. One example is that obviously the retail market in US is very established. There are malls everywhere, and it's very easy to get access to goods and services and products if you're living in any kind of clusters of kind of habitation. Whereas somewhere in Asia, in APAC, where some of those cities were less developed, that opened the opportunity for internet commerce, where internet commerce as a category completely leapfrog the offline malls and shops, and before the cities can develop in time. And we're seeing a similar thing with on-chain service provisions and places in Southeast Asia, in LATAM, and in Africa, where the financial infrastructure is not as well developed as the US, for example, and where people really rely on the stability and the reliability of an open network like Ethereum. So one of the special things about the Ethereum network is that it's been running continuously for many years, and with a very distributed consensus network, where if one node fails, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of nodes to take its place. So there's no single point of dependency, and that is next level of reliability for some people who don't have access to banking services. What Scroll has prioritized in terms of building on top of Ethereum is to maintain the level of uptime, reliability, and all of those user and facing features, while providing a kind of a gas and cost effectiveness where we can 10x the reach. The second direction of use case, so this is the first direction we talked about, is expanding in terms of reach of the core use cases. The second direction, where we're seeing a lot of exciting experimentations, is kind of moving a little bit further away from the discovery of value on chain. So blockchain's application is fundamentally about transferring and creating and tracking value on chain. And where we're seeing a lot of really innovative experimentation is in finding other areas of use for this particular setup. So back to the partnership we just recently announced with Ether.Fi. Ether.Fi is launching a credit card exclusively on Scroll, where you can live your entire on-chain life in DeFi, and while your assets are looping in different protocols, but then you can use a MasterCard endpoint to swipe and pay for anything you like in your daily life. And that means the majority of your assets can remain on chain while you take advantage of all of the activity and growth that is happening within the ecosystem, while whatever you spend, you don't have to do the very convoluted off-ramp process. So this is something that is high frequency in use case. So if you think about how many times you pay for something during your day, this is the level of this is a push towards the higher frequency of transaction per person, and also getting like deeper and helping someone becoming deeper and deeper ingrained in the on-chain universe and living a fully on-chain life.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Going back to the Ether.Fi credit card, I hope I'm saying that right. It is a credit card, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
Okay.
there are a lot of crypto debit cards to push out a credit card that requires a little bit of innovation and design, and being able to have a lot of the credit card loan set up fully on chain. That is also something that required a little bit of innovation from the Ether.Fi team.
Right. But what regions are using that? It was released recently, right?
Yeah, so where it's released is dependent on the issuer's setup, and so it's available in most European countries, in Hong Kong, Singapore, and most of the major APAC regions.
Okay, got it. And how has the adoption there been so far? Are you seeing a lot of users leveraging the credit card and taking advantage of that?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of early signups, a lot of interest. I think there is a group of people who are always early movers who will always be ready to try out novel products. And this product is something we're experimenting and targeting this group of power users at the crypto core.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's say Scroll wasn't a part of the Ether.Fi credit card.
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like if Scroll wasn't there as the layer 2 helping with the transactions, helping with the settlement and the scalability? What would it look like if Scroll wasn't a part of the equation?
Then the cost of each transaction becomes 10 times higher. And so the benefit of a layer 2 is that we can pass some of these value back to the users. And with all of the cashback designs, it just means the user benefit more from using this card, and they pay more per transaction. Sorry, pay less per transaction.
Pay less, right. So there are more user benefits when a layer 2 is a part of the equation.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, Sandy, there's a lot of layer 2s right now. I don't even know how many layer 2s there are. Maybe you do, but there's a lot.
There's a lot. It's probably in the hundreds now.
Right. So what makes Scroll different from all the other layer 2s out there that are helping, scale the Ethereum network?
So the layer 2 landscape is going through a very interesting phase, in my opinion. I think there is a difference between the type of layer 2s that own the underlying technology and the type of layer 2s that are focused on adoption and developer onboarding or end user onboarding. Both strategies are incredibly useful, and it has different focus and requires different teams and attention. Where the Scroll team is focused is we spent the last 3 years building a team that is very holistic and very the team is also very general purpose. So we have a very strong infra team, a very strong protocol team, and also a very strong zk team. All of these things, and also we have a very strong kind of growth function that handles partnerships and marketing. All of these general purpose functions leads to a situation where we can adapt to specific trends and cater for application developers as they grow. So so the industry is moving to a place, we believe, where application will lead a lot of the infrastructure selection, and being able to adopt and adapt and becoming a piece that helps the application focused builders build out the stack is something that we think is super important.
Right. Now, let's talk about zero knowledge proofs, because that's something that Scroll is leveraging, right?
Yeah, correct.
Can you explain what those are and why Scroll, or how Scroll is using that in the technology?
Yeah, so zero knowledge proof is a mathematical concept. It's a way for it's commonly used in application, either in scaling, so compacting transactions, packaging transactions and batches into a single proof, or it's used for privacy application. And there are other parallel and emerging applications coming out that are super interesting, but most of the application of zero knowledge so far are in one or two of these directions. The scaling direction is super interesting, and that's where Scroll work. And it's a setup where we can continuously scale to a degree that has no upper bound. So we're getting to a stage where all the type of rollup cost is becoming like reaching a point of parity, and going forward as adoption expands exponentially, the zk rollup scaling infrastructure can also expand, and the only limit is just kind of hardware acceleration, and hardware is fortunately also kind of hitting a period of hyper growth where it's growing according to Moore's law.
Yeah, so Sandy, that's interesting. Yeah, let's break it down a little bit. Because I'm familiar with zero knowledge proofs for privacy, but I actually am not so familiar with zero knowledge proofs for scaling. So it's interesting that you say that. Anything else you want to add there? Are there any challenges when it comes to zero knowledge proof being used for scaling, or just any challenges that you want to talk about in general?
I think there aren't any major challenges. It's getting more and more established as a technology, and there are more and more teams leveraging its power. I think where it could be applied in application, and where some of the scaling and privacy features could be built in combination to provide application experiences, I think that's super interesting. I think the challenge is that in order to get end user or adoption, the growth skill set and the user acquisition skill sets required are very different from infrastructure build skill sets. And I think we're asking too much from our founders and builders right now to be both consumer facing kind of user acquisition savvy and also infra savvy. So we're trying to extract a lot of that away by providing different tools. So essentially kind of providing builders with a set of toolkit, so you can just take certain tools out of the box as you're trying to chase after a business case or a user trend.
Yeah, definitely. Let's shift gears a little bit. So because there are so many Layer-2s in the Ethereum ecosystem right now, do you think that eventually moving forward, there will be only one or two Layer-2s leveraged? Like, will those solve all the problems, or do you think that we will continue to see multiple Layer-2s being leveraged?
So I think I would probably reference this particular timing as a certain point in the last crypto cycle. There were also hundreds and hundreds of L1s. And we're right now in a similar part of the cycle where the L1 war is somewhat fought, and where the chips have already fallen, and it's very clear who the winners are, and a lot of the L1s from the last cycle have been kind of filtered out of the ecosystem. I think a similar kind of thing will happen for L2. And in terms of like what skill sets and what will enable the team to kind of survive and thrive into the next cycle, I think that part, there are a lot of parallels and lessons we could learn. I think if I'm looking back into the L1 wars, the teams that prevailed are the ones that are hyper-focused on execution, and who are very focused on the building, and also different cultures of different L1s have emerged. So the Ethereum culture is very strong in the open source ethos, and a lot of collaborative efforts, and there are efforts to decentralize different organizations, and so there isn't any single organization that kind of runs the show, so to speak. And there are other L1s where they've really focused on execution, from a centralized entity and run all the research and BD from there. And that also became very effective. I think there are different ways of organization that can do really well. But for me, the main factor is where does innovation happen. So if innovation happens in a particular place, and this is where a lot of the this is the first mover in both infra, and the team needs to also make a lot of the right choices on this journey. So it's definitely a tall order, and but it's interesting, and having a lot of kind of L2s going at this it's a sign of how big the opportunity is.
Definitely. So I'm going to ask kind of a controversial question, but I want to get your take on this.
Of course. Yeah.
So L2s on Ethereum, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin Layer-2s and building on Bitcoin? And why is Scroll an L2 on Ethereum versus Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I wasn't sure I was going to ask it, but I do want to.
No, that's a fantastic question. I think I might have a different perspective on this because I'm sitting from a place where the Bitcoin community is also huge and very, very vibrant and very active. So I think, first of all, we're seeing a lot of Bitcoin whales or users becoming more and more active on chain. I would say maybe 6 months to 9 months ago, there's a huge behavior gap between Ethereum power users and Bitcoin power users. The Bitcoin power users have one consistent behavior, which is buy or mine and then hodl. So they just keep the Bitcoin in their wallet, tries to be as safe as possible. The Ethereum power user behavior is one where there's often a large percentage of their assets are on chain and active, earning yield either in Lido or in Eigenlayer or in the different variations of riskiness on chain placements. You see a lot of that kind of behavior, and people interact with their Ethereum a lot more frequently as you use it as gas, you use it to transact, make payments, so on and so forth. So 6 months ago, I would say there's a massive behavior gap. Right now, that gap is narrowing. We're seeing more and more Bitcoin being active on chain and behaving in a way that is yield seeking, similar to like Ethereum as an asset, and that's very understandable because the two communities overlap hugely, and it's still the same group of people who are pioneers and early movers to any technology trend, and it's the same group of people who believes in a certain type of ethos and believes in a certain kind of way they want to see the world built. There are minor nuances, but fundamentally, I think the two communities have a very strong kind of sense of where they want to see the world. And so there's a lot of Bitcoin assets on Scroll, and from very early on, and these Bitcoin assets are sitting in DeFi, which has never been heard of a year ago, and behaving in almost like exactly the same way as Ethereum, and we can see more and more of that happening. In terms of I think there's been a few innovation in the Bitcoin universe in terms of builder like products that I haven't seen in Ethereum before, but largely it's still just playing out the same trends that's happened. So Layer-2 started in Ethereum 3 or 5 years ago, and we're now seeing Bitcoin Layer-2 this year. So it's kind of like a laggard kind of indicator that an ecosystem is still kind of trying to catch up to some of the innovation that has happened on Ethereum before. And then we're also seeing Bitcoin-related lending protocols. We're seeing Bitcoin-related like restaking protocols. While these are all very innovative and they need a lot of net new design because it's applied to a much older and an infrastructure that's not designed for DeFi specifically. So there's a lot of innovation required to make that happen. But it's kind of like, in terms of conceptually, that's still pretty, those are all things we've seen in Ethereum before. It's kind of like one-to-one mapping. Oh, there's something on ETH, and then so there's going to be something on Bitcoin kind of going forward. I think the only thing that we're seeing new that I've seen new is runes. So a lot of the randomization and hash generation functions on Bitcoin previously wasn't available on Ethereum for certain historical reasons, and there was a flurry of activity related to like fair launches and like runes and different kind of like NFT and meme coin setup where people know unequivocally that they are getting the grounds up, and there's no kind of it's a community effort for generating some of these assets, and so that feature wasn't previously available on Ethereum, but I think one of the teams in our ecosystem actually built it out. So for Scroll, and we'll be launching it very soon, where you can take advantage of the same kind of on-chain randomized features to build out whatever, like mostly games and.
Interesting. You also said something interesting that I want to go back on. So you mentioned Bitcoin might not be a network that was originally built for DeFi. I mean, I'm saying that differently than the way you said it.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, would you say that the Ethereum network was intended for DeFi use cases, whereas the Bitcoin network might have been intended for, like, I don't know, holding the assets or, maybe making simple transactions?
I think Bitcoin has regardless of the intention of the original founder, Bitcoin has clearly found product market fit as the digital gold. There isn't another asset with as strong of a global consensus and as distributed in its holding and the longevity of its existence, and all of these things contributes to Bitcoin holding its kind of position as digital gold. So it's an asset that somebody should hold. But what you do with that asset, it's open to interpretation. Ethereum was built to be a distributed ledger system, kind of like a world computer. So it's designed to be much closer to like an iOS system than a kind of a digital asset. The Ether asset feature came out because it's something that people use. So if you have to make a kind of traditional world comparison, it's much closer to oil than gold because there is a industrial use case for it. You do need to spend it in order to, get from A to B, get from place to place, and you do need it in terms of your kind of on-chain like regular activity, and it enables kind of productive behavior. So that is very different in terms of its design.
Definitely. And last question on this, what drew you towards Ethereum versus Bitcoin? Just out of curiosity.
I love both. I think I believe in the I love both communities, and I think I'm really excited about the on-chain movement of Bitcoin assets overall, and I see a future where the asset nature of Bitcoin and also the transferability and programmability of Ethereum in combination can create something super interesting. And I'm also like really curious to see more assets that come on chain and discover value and leverage this massive pool of on-chain liquidity that we have created. If you think about the powers of a market that controls liquidity, that is the place where all the talents and flow and transactions tend to aggregate. And I think we're moving towards that moment for the as the Ethereum universe as a whole. And if you think about how Scroll wants to be positioned, we're the most secure blockchain solution out there with the most cost-effective trade-offs. And so for people who are moving their large amounts of assets or meaningful amounts of assets on chain, this is by far the preferred destination.
Got it. Great. Let's talk about women in the crypto space because, a lot of my guests that come on the show are men. It's a male dominated space. So as a woman, I mean, what do you find the most interesting about cryptocurrency, and how can we encourage more women to get involved in this sector?
That's a great question. I think I get asked on a regular basis from like young women who are coming into the industry, who are trying to break into the circle. And one of the biggest blockers or prohibitive factors is this so-called like the bro culture within crypto. So guys tend to hang out together and help each other out, and but I think the only way to like make that easier is to form a similar kind of clique and build a culture where women support other women and provide an equal opportunity. So obviously, Scroll has always been an equal opportunity employer. We have a very well balanced team in terms of gender. This is not something that we do intentionally in order to meet any kind of quota. I think when we look for the best talent globally, and we do it regardless of their color, background, or gender, this is where we end up. And also hiring women, in our opinion, is a very good business decision because they're often neglected or underpaid by other organizations. So when we have a similar kind of a level standard, we attract a lot of the top women in the space. So our research team has kind of like a 30% male to female rate, if I'm not mistaken. And it was 50% at some point, and we expanded the team a little bit further. So these are just, numbers. And within the growth function, I think there's also like a 30-40% kind of male to female kind of ratio.
Wonderful. And, and I know you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, your background with the regulatory space in Hong Kong, but what really interests you with, when it came to cryptocurrency? Why did you say, was it because of the evolution of internet and money? But what was it that it got you involved initially?
What got me initially is something just very intuitive, and also something that's like a little bit like ideological. It's the idea that blockchain can open up opportunities to a lot of people around the world and put them on an equal footing in terms of access to opportunity, and also access to services and access to entertainment. All of these ideologically really appeals to me, and having the opportunity to build Scroll and turn some of those lofty dreams into reality is something super exciting. We have teams from Turkey, from Africa, building on Scroll and finding different niche opportunities where you can also leverage a massive global liquidity pool. Those things are completely not possible in the last generation of internet development or financial development.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's completely decentralized, really. And it's just amazing because, as a journalist in the industry, I know people all over the world because this industry is impacting people everywhere, not just in the United States. So yeah, it really is incredible to see that.
Yeah, but the rate of like industry adoption in the US is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm seeing so many talents moving from different industries into crypto, and this is just something that's very, very exciting to see.
Definitely. And I think that as regulatory clarity here shapes up, we're going to start seeing more innovation here in the US. But I do think there's a lot that we can learn from other regions that are more crypto friendly. I feel like Asia is really innovative. We can learn a lot from what's going on there. But yeah, I do think the US is really starting to become a bit better with as regulations shape up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the US regulator, from my standpoint, looks incredibly savvy and well informed compared to all the regulators that I've interacted with. And obviously, US is a lot bigger, and it's a more complex kind of, political and also a bureaucratic system. And so there's bound to be a period of uncertainty. But the level of interest and engagement, and how many kind of U.S. Politicians and regulators are leaning into the industry is something that I think it signals to the rest of the world where directionally this whole industry is going.
I agree, and I think that this election coming up is going to be huge, and it will impact the crypto industry. the candidates didn't discuss it during the recent debate, but whoever wins will impact the crypto industry, and we'll just have to wait and see. So it's going to be interesting. I think it will impact the industry everywhere, not just in the US.
Yeah, I think both sides of the bench seems to be pretty aligned on supporting crypto, which is fantastic, and I think that's due to a lot of the efforts from the industry people in the U.S. that have been lobbying to make this happen, and it just shows how responsive the U.S. government is to voices of the average American who also needs this or wants this as an industry to take place.
I agree. I mean, having those crypto donations being accepted by both parties, that's huge. I don't know if we saw that in the last election. I should look into that, but it is huge, and it just goes to show how much the space has matured.
Yeah. The stats on US youth crypto adoption is absolutely astonishing. And it's very similar to young and emerging developing countries. So when I look at crypto adoption in somewhere, say like Pakistan or Turkey, arguably within the 20 to 30 years old kind of category, these countries have a lot more percentage like active user and trader population compared to the US, but the difference is not as much as you would imagine. Like if you think of US as a very established, like developed world where you would expect kind of the adoption to be a little bit like slower.
Definitely. I mean, I'm sure you have seen the same when you entered the space early on, as did I. It wasn't like this. People weren't talking about cryptocurrency, and I was, one of the few women reporters at the time, and now that has grown. And so, yeah, we're definitely seeing strides in the industry. I think it's great.
Yeah. I think, you're a huge role model for the industry too. And I'm sure you're inspiring lots of young women to enter the crypto space with all the good work that you're doing. So I think, always great to see women kind of, actively participating and also making contributions.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. And I mean, it is amazing because like you said, like financial freedom, and that is a huge part of this. And so for women in particular, I know for myself, when I started accumulating Bitcoin, it really, you do have that financial freedom feeling. And so it's really huge, and it's a great opportunity for both men and women. But yeah, to be in this industry is just fantastic.
Yeah. So I think the gendered issue is something I don't know, how to comment on given how politically sensitive it is in the US. But what I'm seeing around the world is that women who have, who are more kind of like who are previously maybe working mainly in the home sphere are spending more and more of their time kind of dabbling with crypto. In Hong Kong, like most of the NFT fans are women, and that was the first wave of crypto adoption here, rather than something that is super financialized. And we're also seeing a lot of women spending their time on chain and starting to build out certain things that are super interesting. So I'm seeing a whole new wave of female participation, both as users and also as like builders in the space, that is bringing in a whole new perspective and also like a new kind of energy.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we'll talk more about that. We may have to have a follow-up because I didn't know that about the NFT space in Hong Kong and women. So that's really interesting. But we'll talk more about that next time because I know we're running low on time. Any final thoughts, Sandy, that you just want to share that we didn't already cover?
Nope, I think that was pretty comprehensive. I hope the tech talk wasn't too boring, and hope to kind of share more of all the great applications that are building on Scroll.
Yeah, this is wonderful. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, are you on X or LinkedIn or
Yep.
Instagram? How would people reach out, or how would they get in touch with Scroll if they're interested in a career opportunity, for instance?
Yeah, so I'm active on X, I'm active on LinkedIn, and I'm going to be active on IG soon. coming soon, TM. And our website is the best single source of truth. It has all of our documentation. It has a kind of official bridge access to the Scroll network, and we also have a jobs page. And I think currently we have about 10 or so roles open. We're agnostic as to the location of where you want to live. We're a fully remote company, and obviously equal opportunity.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Sandy, this has been a pleasure. We're going to have to do a follow-up call soon, and I hope to meet you in person next time. Yeah. This was great.
Well, let me know if you're ever in Hong Kong, and I'm in SF kind of at least twice a year, so hopefully we can grab lunch.
For sure. Thanks, Sandy.
All right, see you soon, Rachel.
Bye. Special thanks to 4Labs Digital for producing Web3 Deep Dive podcast. I'd also like to thank the sponsors behind Web3 Deep Dive. You can click the links in the show notes to learn more about each of the Web3 initiatives from these sponsors. Finally, thanks to the listeners for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you guys next time.